Hockey, yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. And surprise, surprise. Yeah, it's Judd, it's Declan. But who is the other man on the screen?
I heard Judd was going to call for a coach's head, and I don't even have to talk on this episode. I just want to be here while it happens.
We
want
you to
soak
talk
it in.
Because we all have one huge question, and it's a question that we are going to get immediately in the comments when this does post. Are we talking to the Whisperer?
Let's just put it this way, all right? You're talking to Phil here, but the Whisperer, who, by the way, the Whisperer was put into retirement long ago because of, it's like wrestling when you make a career. Like Ric Flair bets his career against Shawn Michaels. You can't just come back. You got to wait a while. So the Whisperer is still in retirement based on predictions that he lost in previous playoff runs, but his attention is peaked here, okay? He wasn't expecting this type of a train wreck start for the Wild. One of the worst goal differentials in hockey, several embarrassing losses, 8 goals, 5 power play goals. The Whisperer is hovering, wondering, what are we doing here? Okay.
All right. Well, Whisperer and Declan,
yeah.
Let's just start the show. Let's rip the Band-Aid right off. It is time for a coaching change in St. Paul.
I knew this was going to happen today.
It is time for a coaching change in St. Paul. Now, let me speak a little bit about logistics here. Coming off absolutely Phil, the Whisperer, I don't care what you call the other guy on the screen. He's right. That was embarrassing last night. It's time for Dean Evason's job to be terminated. Now, the team is, just to explain this, the team does not play this week again until the weekend when they're going to be in Sweden for 2 games. So I don't know. I'm probably calling right now for something that's not going to take place this week because I believe they leave, or I know that they leave Monday evening for Sweden, all right? But I've seen enough. I have seen enough. Let me give you guys just the quick cliff notes of why I think it's time, and then we can all react, all right? The first one, your top players, including Kirill Kaprizov, who does not, and I know he's getting some points, he does not look like the same player. But more importantly, your top players all look checked out. Now, you could say this team does not have good players, and that's fine, but Kirill Kaprizov is a hell of a player last I checked. You evidently think Matt Zuccarello is good because you signed him to an extension. I could go down the list, and as Dean said, I'm not going to name names. I don't sell people out, but we sucked last night. And that's what Dean said, all right? So when your top players are checked out, that is on the coaching staff to fix that. They don't seem to be able to, and they're doubling down on their mistakes because after moving Kaprizov to the Rossi line, sure as hell, last Friday in Buffalo, what did we see? Got to put Hartman back with Zuccarello and Kaprizov because that's how I do things. All right, no, that's not how you do things. That's how you're comfortable. That's how they're comfortable, and no one right now should be comfortable. The other thing, this is the second consecutive season with a crappy start. Now, we can debate, well, it's early. Bally's was trying to sell us on that last night, except for my guy, Wes Walls, who went ballistic, and it was just awesome. But, it's early. Well, a year ago, after 15 games, this team was 7-6-2 and actually lost again after that, I believe, its next 2 games. This season, 5-8-2. If you look it up, historically, if you're not in a playoff spot by Thanksgiving in this country, because there was a Canadian one in October, U.S. Thanksgiving, don't confuse it with the Canadian Thanksgiving. If you're not in a playoff spot in a week and a half or whenever Thanksgiving falls, you don't make the playoffs. Your odds become much longer. This team is playing careless and sloppy hockey with a lot of bottom 6 type of guys whose lives should revolve around never being careless and never being sloppy. The other thing with Dean is this. Okay, so I've given Dean credit, and Declan knows this, Whisperer. I've given Dean credit because this team has, usually been under Dean pretty good in the regular season, and then they go out in the first round of the playoffs, which, by the way, is another conversation that might be worth firing him for that alone, because I think he tightens up. We can't make fun of Kirk Cousins clenching his teeth and tightening up and then be like, well, Dean tightens up and that's fine. No, it's not fine. Your players take a cue from you. It is time to make a change. Bill Guerin, friend of the show, you need to go in a different direction at coach. I've seen enough.
Oh, boy, yeah, it's
You just made the list.
not looking too good there for Dean Evason. The thing that I've made a point to Judd is, and look, love me some friend of the show, Bill Guerin. Comes on here, shoots it straight with us. Big fan of that. But I did not understand the contract extensions that were handed out here. I mean, Frederick Gaudreau, a replacement-level bottom six guy, is signed here through 2028. Ryan Hartman got a 3-year extension after basically a really good pop-up season when you could have just wrote him off here at the end of the year and then said goodbye. You gave Marcus Foligno, who I like, but is going to be 36 years old by the time his contract also expires. Now, they're not going to fire Bill Guerin. They're not going to fire Bill. So the next chapter is, if the team isn't performing on the ice and the team that they put together here, the general manager, the scouting department, everyone, analytics together, they've put together this team and they're not getting the results they want out of it, then the next guy up is the head coach. It's the same team from last year. And there are some regression stats, especially goaltending, that I'll bring to the table here in a little bit. But this is the same team from last year, and it's drastically worse. Is it because they've always been an overachieving team, or is it because they've now just hit a wall and they have a head coach who's gone stale a little bit, and this is just classic hockey stuff, which infuriates me, but that's kind of what the Wild are looking at here. They're not a good team, and how do they get out of this? They're not going to trade players. It probably starts with firing your head coach.
Wow. I have some dumb questions. Can I ask?
Thoughts?
Yes.
Thoughts?
No dumb
Okay.
questions.
No.
First of all, I didn't know Judd was going to fire a coach for sure, but I could sense it in our text messages and email threads that
I'm at my wit's end.
So it's always a monumental moment when now Judd almost fired Kwesi, the Vikings general manager, a couple months ago. And then today you called him a top 5 GM. So I wonder if there is a comeback trail for Dean here. If we look back and say, wow, thank God the Wild stayed the course, and maybe in a month and a half, Dean can fire. It does kind of feel like hockey shelf lives, right? It's like a handful of years at most, 3-4 years, and then you need a new voice in the room. Here's my biggest concern and question for you guys. Dumb question. Kaprizov, they're not going anywhere this year. Maybe they fire a coach and spark a run to the playoffs, right? Okay, Kaprizov has 2 years left on his contract after this. But correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't a no-move clause kick in next year for him? Or does that no-move clause exist this year too?
Per cap friendly, the no-move clause kicks in next season.
Yep.
Kicks in next season. So he has no clauses this season. No clause.
Okay, so my question is, he's got 2 years left on his deal. Can you win big with Kaprizov as your centerpiece? You're not going to this year probably, right? Next year or the year after? And if the honest answer is no, should you entertain trading him for a haul and build around your 22-year-olds for the next 5 years?
Very fair question. Not a dumb question. And
I'm
here's
going to get savaged by the Judd's Hockey Show audience.
And here's
for
my
asking that
comeback.
question. Just
Oh,
throwing
you
it out
will.
there.
Yes, you will get savaged by them.
I'll clip this now.
But let me answer that question, because there have certainly been times where we have entertained the idea of trading stars because they might not go to another level. They might get you a huge return. But in this case, I don't think so. Kirill Kaprizov, something seems off, and I don't know if it's an off the ice thing. I don't know if he's still hurt from the Logan Stanley hit against the Jets last year. He's just not doing Kirill things. But I think the question is Dean Evason going to get that out of Kirill? Like if and when they do win, and potentially win big, is Dean going to be the guy behind the bench pushing the buttons? And my response right now is no. So this is not just a short-term thing. I just think it feels to me, and I'm not sure what Dex thinks about this statement, it feels to me like he's lost the room. And in hockey, that's a real thing. I mean, in sports, that's a thing. In hockey, but I mean, after last night's game again, they had, wait for it, players only meeting. They've done that like twice now. And Dean has complained at guys. And I forgot to say, Matt Boldy is not playing well. I guess according to Russo's piece in The Athletic today, the coaching staff sat him down 2 weeks ago and challenged him, and he's back to doing the same crap. And so while the Kaprizov question is certainly one worth talking about and entertaining, I am not ready to go down that route. I would far rather see if you could get someone in here who he either respects more or listens to, and that can, because I think Kirill is eventually part of the solution, hopefully, not the problem. And I think that right now, with what Dean is not getting out of this team, it's become very clear. Because, this team is playing poorly from the best guy to the worst guy. I think it's become very clear that there is a coaching problem here. And you know what? He's a different personality because Dean's a nicer guy. But at the end of the day, from a locker room standpoint, this might have graduated to a Mike Zimmer standpoint. Older coach, we got to work harder. We got to do this, do that. I mean, if you go back and look at Dean's career was built on mucking it up, working his ass off. He loves that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
He's 59 and he looks like he's 76 too, right?
And he looks worse than ever because he just, I mean, the team's not playing well. He is super stressed. I think his issues with tics with his head neck bending gets worse as the team loses more. You could just tell the stress is a lot. But anyway, I think the starting point of trying to fix this is not entertaining like a Kirill trade. I think it's far more saying, how can we get our own Kevin O'Connell-esque type of coach here?
That's what I was thinking. Who's the KOC? More? Who's hockey KOC that they can bring in?
Yeah, and Kirill's been a passenger at best, and that's probably putting it kindly this year. He has one even strength goal in 15 games this year.
Incredible.
One. He scored 4 of his 5 goals on the power play. His shooting percentage is criminally low, it's 8.9%. He shoots a ton, so he's going to have a higher shooting percentage than league average, but he's pressing. He's minus 11 on the ice. I don't take a whole lot of stock all the time in plus minus, but when your star player is minus 11 with 1 even strength goal through 15 games, that's a problem.
His turnovers are absolutely incredible. I mean, he's become a sieve. And I just, look, if this was him, if everybody else was playing well, okay, and Kirill was struggling, I would say he's just struggling. He'll probably be fine. But this is a team-wide problem. This is a team-wide problem. And to come back, so they beat the Islanders, I believe it was, Declan, correct me if I'm wrong, last Tuesday.
Yep.
And that's a grinded-out opponent.
It was
a really good win, but that's a grind-out opponent. They go and play a Rangers team that was without a guy by the name of Adam Fox, who's the best defenseman in the league, or he's not the best. He's one of the best. But it's still good. They lose there. They go to Buffalo, put a ton of pressure on. They lose there. Then they come home on Sunday with a day off on Saturday and give up 5 power play goals. Dallas scored more power play goals in the game on Sunday than they had on the season.
Wow.
This is incredible. And to have that sort of, you don't play again at home for a week plus. You don't have to play all week long because you're traveling. And you put on from top to bottom an absolute horse bleep performance. To me, that comes down to coaching.
The only team, from what I can tell, that has given up more goals are the San Jose Sharks, who are actively hunting.
You're right.
Hunting through the ocean for the number 1 overall pick, I would assume, right? So, okay, here's another dumb question for you guys as the Whisperer surveys what needs to be done here in the coming weeks. How good is the Wild's young nucleus? Compared to the rest of the league, let's say. Because we can say, they've got some good 21 and 22-year-old players, and Kaprizov's, 26. I'm talking about Boldy, Rossi, Brock Faber, And then let's add Kaprizov as like, the guy in his prime. If you start with that as sort of a young nucleus, how good is that nucleus if they're going to look to do something big and go deep in the playoffs? Maybe not this year, but the next 2 or 3 years. And how much can a new coach unlock that young nucleus?
And I would also honestly include Joel Eriksson Ek into that conversation too.
27. Yeah,
he's 27 years old and he's been a core player and he's been a stud for you. Their next wave of prospects is not going to be here like anytime soon. So the core you're talking about in Faber and Boldy and Rossi and Kaprizov, that's a decent core to have, but because of their salary cap problems, it's hard to really fill out the rest of their roster here. And the fact they've also married themselves to a bunch of bottom 6 guys, and that's what that part blew my mind. I thought the Wild were going to take a step back this year. I thought maybe borderline playoff team at best, but for them to basically have an arranged marriage with all these veteran players that they're committing to, that part confused me because they were setting themselves up because they have one more year. They have another full season of this buyout hell that they're in because of Parise and Suter. I figured that, all right, they're gonna bide their time a little bit here. Maybe they can still re-sign Kirill Kaprizov when all the buyouts come up, and they still have a decent amount of core players. They don't have enough surrounding talent outside of those guys that Phil was mentioning to make a huge difference. They don't. And you can, find replacement level players that can play those roles. That happens in hockey all the time. I like this core, but that supporting cast is not good enough to elevate the rest of the team around them.
What I don't get is this. Why are we seeing letdowns? And my guess is it's contractual security, like Boldy. He's turning into old school Charlie Coyle 2.0 or Greenway, who did the same crap. Now, Coyle's gone to Boston. He's magnificent now. He's turned himself into a really good player. And I am not saying Boldy should be traded. He's at the start of a contract. He's going to be, I think, a good player. But when you see your top players, for the most part, just lack what looks to be like all desire to prove themselves, which is what we're seeing right now. Like, if it's one player, I'm like, okay, that guy deserves talking to, but the rest of the team is going to hold him accountable. As Dean said, and this to me is like this is the problem. Like this is when you've lost the team. Dean said on the bench last night, because they were turning over the puck like it was going out of style, that there would be guys on the bench saying, got to hold the puck. Don't turn it over again. We got to do this. We got to do that. No turnovers. And that same guy then, according to Dean, would go out on the ice and turn it over. Your message has been lost. Your message has been lost. I think that the long-term future of this team, with Wallstedt coming up from Iowa, my guess in goal next season, I think the long-term future could be fine. But I think what we're seeing right now is a snapshot of something that you need to try and fix. This is in my opinion, this is becoming a cultural problem, and it's way too close. And I never thought I would say this because I never thought this would happen with this core group. This is becoming way too close to the Parise and Suter type crap. It seems like guys are comfortable. It seems like, to Declan's point, guys who are grinders got contracts, and now we're like, I got a contract. It feels like because the team is cap-strapped and can't make a ton of moves, that guys are taking security in that instead of motivation. So I see some cultural problems that I don't like. And I mean, Bill Guerin is to me, the last guy to put up with this type of crap. But I don't see a way to get around it unless you actually come down with some type of hammer to alert these guys that this is not going to be another Wild Club Med 2.0. And Bill Guerin's worked way too hard to change the feeling inside that room to now allow the same thing to creep back in because some old guys think I'm comfortable. And what they did, and Dex can get to the goaltending metrics next, but what they did to Fleury last night was absolutely disgusting. They hung him. He's almost 39. In 2 weeks, I think he turns 39. He's an old man. Well, I'm an old man. He's an old man for hockey.
Yeah, by the way, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Judd,
here.
by the way.
Happy
Thank you
birthday,
very much.
Judd.
I'm 54 today.
He's gonna have an aneurysm on his 54th birthday
The
about the Minnesota Wild.
Well, the flower is going to be 39 in 2 weeks, and they hung his ass out to dry. That is a Parise and Suter type of move. And I'm sorry, I have no interest in watching this crap again, especially with some older guys who have no excuse for the crappy performance they are putting out right now.
Nothing can mask some stink like good goaltending. Like good goaltending can carry you, and maybe Jesper Wallstedt is the answer there next season, or hell, maybe in a month with the way the goaltending is playing. That can help you bail some things out. But goaltending is a very it goes up and down. It's very inconsistent, and especially guys that aren't like Vezina caliber year in year out really good goaltenders. So Philip Gustafsson is a poster boy for this. Okay, so his last year in Ottawa, he wasn't good. That Ottawa team stunk. He had a GA of 3.5. His goals saved above expected was also a negative figure. It was not a good analytic figure. It wasn't a good traditional figure. Last year, he steps up, plays out of his mind. So let's go on the penalty kill here. So there's the narrative in hockey that your best penalty killer is your goaltender. Last year, Philip Gustafsson allowed just 13 goals on the penalty kill. So on the power play for the other team, he allowed just 13 power play goals. His .918 save percentage was the best figure in the NHL. There was not a single goaltender had a better save percentage when facing a power play than Philip Gustafsson. The next closest guy was 20 points lower. Like, it's a completely unsustainable stat, right? Like, you're down a man. The other team has the puck in your zone. You're not going to be able to stop all the pucks. He posted a save percentage that is better than most league average 5-on-5 save percentages. So let's fast forward to this year. This season, Philip Gustafsson has the 7th worst save percentage. He has already allowed 9 goals on opposing power plays. Marc-Andre Fleury, now a lot of it came yesterday, has allowed 10 goals on the power play. They have combined to allow 19 power play goals. They're two of the worst goaltenders on the penalty kill. And yes, the Wild have historically had really good systems in front of their goalies that make ordinary goalies look better. We've seen it with Devin Dubnyk. We saw it with Cam Talbot. We saw Philip Gustafsson. They've had a system here that usually works really well, but it also ebbs and flows. It yo-yos from year to year. And this year they aren't getting even remotely league average goaltending, and it's killing them.
This is disgusting.
Thoughts whisper?
This is disgusting.
Thoughts whisper?
All of
at least
this.
At least your team looks really good.
All of this, I think, to Declan's point, okay, it feels like there are certain things that aren't sustainable in sports. Like in baseball, if you see a guy with an inflated batting average on balls in play, that's going to come back to earth. You should probably plan for that. It feels to me like maybe they didn't plan on certain goaltending-related metrics coming back to earth in their mapping out of the 2023-24 season. That's more of a front office problem than a coaching problem. Mm-hmm. I know he's a friend of the show here, but how much does the attention turn to Billy Guerin at some point here too? Because, I mean, he's the architect of all this, right? You can't – tolerance for poor performance is something that I feel like stood for way too long with this team.
Well, and on Gus, you know, the reality is the Cam Talbot trade a year ago with the Senators turned out to be a great trade. And Gustafsson came in as the backup to Fleury and then won the job because he played so well. But, I mean, yes, Bill Guerin was taking a chance. I feel like the veterans that were signed that Declan talked about, the Foligno contract, Hartman over to Goudreau, I feel like those were more of a Bill Guerin Dean thing because Dean loves those guys. Those are his core type guys, which drives me absolutely up the wall. But, yes, and look, I am suggesting that Dean Evason be fired, which means Bill Guerin's the next guy. Like, he's in the line of fire then. But I don't think that you can sit here and watch this. I'm not sure what Dex thinks. I don't think that you can sit here and watch this and just accept it. You've worked, again, it's a cultural problem. You worked your ass off to change this thing. You bought out 2 guys and put yourself into salary cap hell. So, like, that's no small move. And I don't care if these guys are nicer or say hi in the hallway more than Parise and Suter did. I don't give a damn. The complacency that I'm seeing and the inability, and this is the Dean thing, the inability to get more from his top players. I don't care if you consider him superstars or not. I would argue at his best Kaprizov is. Zuccarello, not, Hartman, certainly not. But the inability to get more from your top line players to get, and the one thing on the Gustafsson Fleury power play goal stat, and I don't know if it's quantifiable, but it would take some work. I don't know how many goals this year have come off rebounds and plays in front that the defense doesn't get to.
Yep.
Because, like, you can hang your goaltender out to dry. Like, last night was a gong show of horse manure, and it was mainly the guys in front of the flower. They literally fertilized the flower last night by putting manure on the puck and allowing the Stars to score goals. They were fertilizing the flower, who can grow, but he ain't going to get better in goal. But I can't tell you the amount of loose pucks in front that they just don't get to now. And that is one thing. That is, do you want to get to the puck or not?
God, look at Judd. This is
You know,
great.
people say
I'm
that
pretty worked up
you start
about
to mentally fade with age. You know, Judd's turning 54, and he's as sharp as he's ever been. You know, another thing, too, that I know that Kaprizov's not exactly off to an amazing start here, and you guys say he sort of looks checked out, but so it's not like he's playing his ass off and he's having the best season and everyone else around him is letting him down. I get that he's sort of part of the problem in some ways, but it feels like the franchise is wasting his career to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's 26 years old.
This is a waste.
In hockey, it's not like you don't really get to play at that level until you're 33 or 34. You can stay in the league for a long time, but like you're at your best right now at age 26, and it does feel like it's just kind of a waste. I mean, they're not on track to make the playoffs right now, and he's one of the 3 best players in franchise history, probably 4. He's on the Mount Rushmore, I would say.
Oh, he's on there.
Right? Like,
Yeah, he's on there.
and it's just, they're just, and here they are just kind of toiling. They got cap issues, and, they've got goaltending issues, and they might fire a coach. Like, what are we doing here with the career of one of the best players in franchise history is my biggest question.
It would be marketing basically suicide to trade him this year. Like, if they traded Kirill Kaprizov,
Yeah.
they would get fans would bail on season tickets. There isn't a lot of lore there to go there. It would be awful. There was the great 30 for 30 called King's Ransom when Wayne Gretzky got traded from the Oilers to the Kings. This would be the equivalent of a King's Ransom situation. It would now the Oilers, Judd, were like coming off their 4th Stanley Cup or multiple Stanley Cups. I don't think they traded them after the Stanley Cup, but it would be marketing suicide for them to do that. But at this point, you are wasting Kirill. Like those 2 opportunities that you had in the first round series that have resulted in exits here the last few years. Those are it, man. Those are your best teams, and now you're heading down to downslide. And he's going to be a free agent in 2 or 3 years, and you'll have the salary cap that'll free up by then. But does he also still want to be there by here?
My issue with that is right now, I have no interest in trading him. I want to find ways to make this work and to fix it. And that again, if you defend Dean and say, well, I mean, it's not all his fault, and okay, he hasn't gotten past the first round ever. So, like, at some point in time, that's what I look at that. I look at what's currently transpiring, and I look at Kirill as the engine of the car, and I don't want to trash the engine. Before I do that, I'm going to make other changes, other significant changes, and I'd start with Dean. I really would. I would start with Dean, because if that second tier of players who are very key to you, or hell, the bottom tier of players aren't giving you their all, that's on you, dude. Your whole thing is that's how I played. That's the work I'm going to get. And, you can only send Marcus Foligno in to talk to address the group and MF them so many times before that's going to fall on deaf ears too. And it probably has. But the Kirill thing, just to be very, very clear, I don't think trading him at this point, I know that he gets protection from being traded in a year. I don't have any interest in trading him. I have an interest in trying to diagnose what's wrong here and jumpstart this team immediately, but more importantly also put everyone in a position where they realize that they can't get away with the stunts and the crap that they are currently pulling, and that's what's driving me crazy. I see them going back to the habits that Bill Guerin fought so hard to change, and it's absolutely maddening because for the most part, They don't have enough talent to be doing this crap.
I just
I mean,
can't.
they don't.
I just came
They
to
just
hear
don't.
Judd call for a coach's head, and I am satisfied.
Okay.
I am
Yeah,
satisfied.
it's time for a change. It's time for a change at the X. Again, I think because of timing. If they go to Sweden and lose 2 games, though, and they come home with no coaching change, I will be very disappointed in my good friend, Bill Guerin.
I mean, even the Oilers obviously fired, rightfully so, their head coach
After a win.
after
Finally
a win.
won a game,
Wow.
and then they fired his
And
ass.
he was a bit of a more of a obnoxious buffoon, or he was a
What
bit of
cro-
aloof. Like the fact he was
Well,
like mocking people, like, well, I'm not getting fired, and then like, well, now you're memed. Now you're literally a laughing stock on the internet, dude. But
Well, and I like, Dean seems like a very nice guy. This is not a personal thing. This is not he's a jerk at all. This is I don't think what you're doing is working.
Mm-hmm.
This is very simple. And if nothing else,
You just made the list.
I said the same thing about Baldelli in July, and guess what? Twins came back and played well.
I love Judd using the Vikings flag to point to
It's a
the
pointer.
camera.
It's a
to
pointer.
make his point there.
I don't have a pen, so I used the Vikings flag as a pointer. It's time to make a change.
Amazing.
That's all I got for you.
Sounds good. I'm satisfied. Thanks for
Thank
letting
you
me
very
sit in
much.
here and eavesdrop on Judd firing a coach.
Declan, take us home.
I was gonna say, well, if you're having electrical issues in your home, the Wild have electrical issues maybe with their star players. Who would you call for that?
I would call.
Not that one. There you
I would call my friend Dad right there at Finch Home Solutions.
Matt
of course.
Boldy. Call Matt
Yeah,
Boldy.
call Matt Boldy.
Call
Get that
Matt
going.
Boldy. Call Matt Boldy. He'll burn your
Plenty enough
house
there to keep
down.
you busy.
He'll accidentally burn your house down. You know what Finch Home Solutions is going to do? They're going to fix, as Declan said, any electrical problems in your home. Finch is your one-stop shopping for small, like let's say that you need an outlet installed. Let's say that your home has a 2-prong outlet. You decide, I want that to be 3-prong. Let's say your entire home needs to be rewired. Major project, but very important for the safety of you and your family. Finch Home Solutions, again, is the place to call or check out. In fact, go to their newly designed site right now, finchhomesolutions.com. Finchhomesolutions.com. It's easier than ever to navigate. You can actually set up an appointment through that. Cody and his team will come out. They will help you. They will get anything that you need done. Courteous, professional. They always shoot straight. Finchhomesolutions.com is the place to go.
Hit the subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. This is Judd's Hockey Show. We got Flagrant Howls also coming up later today. Scoop session, write that down. Coming up, plenty of things at your disposal right here on the SKOR North YouTube channel. We'll be back at you later.